Welcome to the YouTube channel that I've been putting off for a couple of years. And everything finally just clicked. Even the fact that I'm talking right now, knowing that I'm recording for a YouTube channel, tells me all the friction is gone. There has been friction for years before creating this channel. And then I created it in November, thinking that once I create it, I'm just going to hit a ton of momentum and all the fear is going to dissipate. But then a new version of fear comes up. As soon as you start something, even though they often say that starting is the hardest part, sometimes the friction comes back. So I'm not going to promise you that everything gets easier once you start. But I will tell you that task by task, once you begin, it gets significantly easier. So now that I'm talking to a camera and I have my ring light set up and I got the mic connected and I haven't even done this in months, I can tell you that in the moment that I clicked record, the procrastination went away. The procrastination's only power is in stopping you from starting at all. But the second you begin, it's got nothing. Now it can come back after I posted my first YouTube video in November. It can come back before my second video. The procrastination and fear starts over every day. There's a book I highly recommend everybody called The War of Art. It's written by Steven Pressfield. And in it, he says, the warrior and the artist, they know the same thing, which is that the battle is to be fought anew every single day. And that's to tell you, yeah, starting is the hard part, but continuing is just as hard. And you know what can sometimes be even harder? Succeeding and making it, and then still needing to keep going. And that's what this video is about. I've been lying to myself for the last several years, painting a picture of success in my life and in my mind that is, success is all about freedom of time, freedom of choice, spontaneity, the ability to say yes to whatever I want, whenever I want. And anybody who is too busy to take spontaneous trips, to hang out with friends, to do what they want when they want, is not successful in my eyes. And if this is your definition of success, then that's totally fine. It was my definition of success, or so I thought, for a very long time, up until about 4 months ago. When I turned 29 last November, I felt this rush of clarity, and I'm not exactly sure where it came from, but it was rooted in the fact that I saw so much that I admired in people who definitely didn't have the free time to just do whatever they want, whenever they wanted, because they were busy building something special. A brand, a team, a legacy, whatever you want to call it. I could feel in my heart that admiration, and it was the good kind of envy. The bad kind of envy is when you have a jealousy towards somebody because you don't want them to have that thing. The good version of envy is when you love that thing for that person and you also want it for yourself. And that is what I was feeling. Every time I was watching creators, people get brand deals, people build businesses, people going from content creator to podcaster to being featured on major podcasts. And in my head, I would always justify it with, yeah, but I got more free time than they do. I can hang out with my friends whenever I want. I can travel whenever I want. I say yes to trips to Japan or Spain or Albania or Paris on a whim, and that makes me more successful than them. But in reality, this is a really tricky way of the mind. And I highly recommend reading Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, because he consistently talks about how the mind will pull all the stops to stop you from becoming the next version of yourself if you don't believe that you deserve to be that next version of yourself. So somewhere deep down, I felt like I had reached what Gay Hendricks calls the upper limit. The upper limit is when you reach what you think is the ceiling of your life. That could be a certain amount of money in a year. That could be a certain type of relationship, a certain amount of projects that you're juggling at one time. And if you feel like you have reached that limit, then similar to a thermostat, your mind will drag you down every time you try to break past that limit. But the scary thing is that this is very much at the subconscious level. You won't know this is happening until hopefully you watch a video like this, or you have a really eye-opening conversation with somebody and you make the realization that you are destined for much more. You are capable of much more. You're worthy of accomplishing much more, but you've been hiding behind this guise of fear in your mind. And that's why a lot of people grow up thinking that wealthy people are corrupt. What ends up happening as they grow older is that even if they do get the opportunity to accumulate wealth, there's this belief in their mind that all wealthy people are corrupt, and therefore I could never become wealthy because I don't want to be corrupt. And that belief isn't true, but it is the way your mind tries to deploy core values to stop you from pursuing the next version of yourself. So that's why it was so eye-opening to me when I realized I've been lying. I don't actually want all the free time and all the spontaneity and being able to hang out on a whim. That's cool every now and again. But in terms of the next 40, 50, 60 years of my life, I'm more hoping to build things that I'm genuinely proud of. I'm hoping to challenge myself. I'm hoping to open businesses and create opportunities for myself and for other people, take care of my family and my friends, take care of my community, inspire other people, show them that hard work and great talent and consistency really does put you on the map in a way that nothing else will. And if someone wants to chase their version of success, which is more, they just want to make $90,000 and they want as much free time as possible, then there is absolutely no problem with that. But I implore you to look deep down and ask yourself, am I actually averse to these things that could be related to success? Or am I lying to myself to protect myself? To protect myself from failure, to protect myself from trying and falling flat on my face? Because a lot of people think they're scared of failure. But for me, I've found myself, and I've found many, many people through my coaching or through my friends or colleagues or listening to stories, most people fear success. And that includes me. I started my TikTok 15, 16 months ago, and I hit 200,000 followers in less than 365 days, just by a day. 364 days it took me to get to 200,000 followers. But then I stopped. I slowed down, my consistency went down, I wasn't posting as aggressively. And then I kind of picked the next goal, which was my podcast. So in December of last year, I decided to start my podcast, thinking that I'm ready for a new challenge. I'm ready to take that next step of becoming who I know I could be. And within 6 episodes, I stopped. I even started YouTube in November, and it just took one vlog. I only posted one vlog, and then I stopped. And the justification started coming back into my mind, telling me like, I don't actually want success that bad. I don't want my YouTube channel. I don't want a podcast. I just want a normal life. I just want to be working my 9 to 5 and make decent money and then call it a day and leave my schedule open for whatever adventures life has. And I'm acting as if I'm a travel junkie or I have a group of 20 bachelor friends just constantly wanting to go out all the time. And none of that is true. Most of my friends are married. Most of my friends are business owners. Most of my friends are busy with lives of their own. But for some reason, I'm keeping my schedule free just in case someone wants to hang out or go see a movie on a Tuesday. And I'm stopping the progression of my life for that type of justification. And once you analyze it, once you journal about it, once you verbalize these things, you start realizing how nonsensical that all is. I do want it all. I do want to be featured on podcasts. I want the biggest mental health TikTok page. I want to be invited to events to speak on stage and normalize talking about mental health for men and women. I want my own podcast. I want my own YouTube channel. I want to scale my clothing brand. And I want to continue working at the jewelry brand that I got to 8 figures with an amazing team. And I want to continue scaling that. And there's this liberation. There's this liberation when you say it out loud. I want it. I lied. I want all the success. I don't want balance. I don't want to constantly feel comfortable in my life. I want to start loving the discomfort. I want days to come where my calendar is just packed with work. I want back-to-back meetings. I want to travel to meet the team in this state and then come back and then work on my content and so on and so forth. It's uncomfortable, but that's usually where growth happens. And that's why the mind gets in the way. Because anything that is uncomfortable, anything that is new, is posed as a threat to your mind. And like I said, it'll deploy whatever it needs to stop you from getting to that next level. In Psycho-Cybernetics, Dr. Maxwell talks about someone that he calls the $5,000 man. And I probably should have bookmarked it somewhere. But the story goes that there was a man who worked in the real estate industry. And every year he would make $5,000. And I believe this study was like in the 60s. So this was a ton of money. And so he would get promoted to easier territories, higher income territories. And in theory, it should be no problem at all to make 2 or 3 times as much as you've been making. And so when they moved him to those territories, they realized he was still making $5,000. So they would move him back down to the bad territories, where in theory, it would be significantly harder to make $5,000. And the year would come to an end, and yet again, he would make $5,000 again. And once they did a study on him, they realized this was a self-image problem. He didn't find himself worthy of making more than $5,000. And you know what the mind and body will do if you are knocking on a door that it doesn't think you're worthy of knocking on? Do you know what happened to that $5,000 man one of the years? He hit the $5,000 mark around Thanksgiving. He's got over a month left to break that glass ceiling that he's been hitting year after year. There's still a month left of the year. And you know what ends up happening? He falls physically ill. He is bedridden for the rest of the year. And the second January 1st came around, miraculously, he's feeling better. Peculiar. But we don't realize how strong the mind is. We don't realize that the mind will make you physically sick if you are knocking on a door that you personally do not believe you're worthy of knocking on. That's why we often feel so tired all of a sudden. I can't tell you how tired I was before filming this video right here. And now I've been talking for 13 minutes, 0 cuts. I hope 0 stutters, 0 editing. But I was yawning when I was charging my phone and looking for my microphone and turning on my ring light and my orb light. I was like, man, maybe I should just do this tomorrow. But I promised myself, Mondays, there's going to be a YouTube video. Because I just came back from 2 weeks of travel at 3 different states, and every single state gave me a completely different form of inspiration and energy and reinvigoration. And I refuse to drop the ball on the promise that I made myself, because that's what causes low self-esteem. When you can't keep your word because you made the promise to you, and your comfort factor is that nobody else knows I made this promise. That is what causes low self-esteem. That is what makes it harder and harder by the day to keep your word. And in that book that I recommended, The War of Art by Steven Pressfield, he specifically says, whatever you procrastinate today will become twice as difficult tomorrow. So if you're watching this and you've been putting something off day by day by day, I please beg you, let today be the last. It could be as simple as cleaning out a drawer, registering your car, getting an oil change, talking to that one friend, taking that shot in the relationship, creating the domain for your business, posting your first ever TikTok. Find the most comically small step towards whatever you think is deserving of your attention, and take that step and watch, just like the beginning of this video that I said 15 minutes ago, watch the procrastination melt away. Because 15 minutes ago when I was setting up my camera on this tripod, I would never be able to tell you that I filmed for 15 minutes with no cuts, with no redos. This was my first take, and it's going to be my only take, because this is what this YouTube channel is about. It's about reflecting on what your mind has been telling you, maybe for a year, maybe for 5, maybe for your entire life. Some of us are chasing goals that we didn't set for ourselves. We're chasing goals to impress dad. We're chasing goals to prove an ex wrong. We're playing the game that society has created around us. Be very careful, because you cannot win someone else's game. Your life needs to be comprised of the things you want for yourself. And if you want success, then stop lying to yourself like I was lying to myself. Stop painting a different version of a life that you think is successful when you know deep down you're just hiding from the discomfort. You're just hiding from the true success that you want. And this is me coming out of hiding. I'm done hiding from the discomfort. I'm done hiding from what I know I deserve, what I know I can work on. The scaled clothing brand, the consistent YouTube content, the return of my podcast, manifesting being featured on a podcast one day, being invited to speak at events, and working harder than I ever have, because life has a lot to offer and I want all of it.